death is just the end of that particular form. It's not the end of the being. It's like, going on a long car ride. And okay, well, gosh, that was a fabulous adventure, and I'm tired now. I'm going to get out of the car, go into this lovely place for a minute. Maybe I'll get back in the car and go on another journey. But me, the essence, you don't die.
I'm here today with Joy. Joy is a stress and trauma expert, ex-corporate executive, and inadvertent shaman. She died 6 times, and each time has been returned with different perspectives and uncommon abilities to help others. Additionally, doctors have given up on her on 6 unrelated occasions. She had to learn to heal herself. Now she teaches others how to heal themselves. She's certified in more than a dozen holistic healing modalities, living proof that incurable means curable only from within. Joy, thank you so much for being my guest. I am so honored to have you here with me today.
Thank you for having me, Tia. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about death and dying, because I keep getting shadow banned when I'm TikTok's fairy godmother, and every time I talk about this really important subject, you're not even allowed to spell the word death or die anymore, for goodness sake. You have to put an asterisk in there. Why is it so scary? Well, okay, I understand why it's so scary, and that's why I'm glad to be here to talk about that.
You're right. It's a taboo subject. And I think that's part of the reason why it's so scary for people is we're not really allowed to discuss it openly. And that's why it's important that you share your near-death experience. So thank you. That means a lot. So you've actually had a plethora, more than most even near-death experiencers, a whole lifetime of events. Tell me how this got started for you.
The first time I died, I was 15 years old. I flew off a cliff on a motorbike wearing a full face helmet and a bikini. They never found the bikini top. And I was declared dead on the operating table for 2.5 minutes. And I had the whole traditional near-death experience, which was very startling to me because, well, at that point, I believed that once you were dead, you were dead. That was it. And I remember being wheeled into the operating theatre, and I remember the anesthesiologist counting me down. And the next thing I knew, I was up in the corner of the room looking down at the operating table, and I heard the anesthesiologist say, "We've lost him." And all of a sudden there was this big flurry around the table, and I realized, oh my God, they're talking about me. That's me down there. And I felt this, whoa. And then all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, that's not me down there. It's just my body. And this wild sense of freedom. And that's when I saw it is a sort of a tunnel, you'll see. But it's a vortex of light, and I was magnetized toward it. And I know that all of the doctors, because I died before it was fashionable and before any near-death experience was ever talked about, and they tried to tell me it was chemicals in my brain and all of these things, but it's not. And ask anybody who died, they will tell you that light is a pure, unconditional love. It's the most, I wanted with every fiber of my being to go toward that light, and I was stopped. And I was clearly told it wasn't my time, and I was sent back, and I was furious about it. I landed back in the back in ICU with my idiot doctor telling me that he wanted to amputate my leg because I probably wasn't going to walk again anyway. I told him I'd not only walk, I'd dance on his grave. And that's how I became a silver medal winning ballroom and Latin dancer. But that's another story. I spent the first year trying to get back, until I finally, after the second time of having my stomach pumped out, realized God's not going to let me back. I'm I've got something to do here. So I got on with it. Took me 7 years to recover and to learn to walk again. And in that time, I found an absolute genius for business and for creating new ideas and for finding niches that with unfulfilled needs. And I began to build my empire, and it was just so enormously fun. And I'm from New Zealand. That's where that accent is. I was raised in the valley where Rivendell was filmed in Lord of the Rings. And it's a gorgeous country, but a small pond, and I'd become a big fish. And I wanted to just see how big I could grow. So I persuaded my lovely husband, who was my manager, my secretary, he was a fabulous house husband. He made sure that all I had to do was go out and make money and create ideas, and it was a magnificent relationship. And I persuaded him, okay, it's time. I've been headhunted by this company in Australia, and I want to go. So I persuaded him to leave all of our security, everything. So my whole library of books just up and went, and totally rocked it. We had this gorgeous house in Elizabeth Bay, right next to King's Cross, and we would sit on the veranda with our millionaire mates, sipping champagne, watching the Sydney to Hobart yacht race. It was awesome. I had hit it big, and 4 months later, I was hit by a drunk driver, and see. When I flew off the cliff on the motorbike, I'd smashed my leg up so spectacularly that nobody noticed 13 displaced vertebrae. So when I was hit, all of my spine reactivated. And it was rough. I couldn't speak without stuttering. I couldn't lift a glass of water with my left hand. I lost 70% of the strength in the left side of my body. I couldn't walk or stand for more than a few minutes. But the biggest challenge that I had was any time I went into any kind of stress, the soft tissue would swell in the base of my neck, blood would stop going to my forebrain, and I would have about 3 minutes before I blacked out. I never knew if I would wake up from any of the blackouts. And it was a stressful time. So I was blacking out multiple times a day. And each blackout was causing oxygen deprivation, which created an oxidative stress wall in my forebrain. So after a couple of years of intermittent oxygen deprivation, the doctors said I would be dead or brain dead by the time I was 30. I was 24. For 18 months, I walked with death. And we got to be really good mates. When you wake up in the morning and you don't know whether or not you're going to see the end of the day, it changes your perspective. I got to take a really good, long, hard look about how I was living my life. I got to think about, all right, well, if I do die today, what am I going to take to God as the sum total of everything that I, have done? Hey, God, look at all the money I made. I mean, this is impressive. Look at all the things I've got. I have the whole dream here. And suddenly everything that I had considered so impressive and important just didn't look so crash hot when I took it to God. So I sat with myself until I found something that I would be proud to take to God. And it was, I made each life that I touched more joyful. And that was what I founded my life. The court-appointed psychiatrist suggested that I take up basket weaving so that I could continue being a contributing member of society when I was brain dead at 30. I actually found that very cathartic. I got to tell him what I thought of him and his lineage and his business and his practices. And when I walked out and tried to get hit by a bus, but God still had plans for me. So I got on with it. Because if you're going to be here, and here's the clue to see if you've still got stuff to do. Are you still breathing? And if you are, and you're not dead yet, especially if you're supposed to be, there's a reason. There's a reason. I should have died so many times. I've drowned. Mold has nearly carried me off more times than I can count. What I had to do in order to survive. See, my brain at this point looked like Swiss cheese. I didn't have a lot of access to executive functioning. I could no longer think forward or remember back because I would run up against an oxidative stress wall, which looks like this. And it'd just be this big wall. I'd be typing. I remember the first time it happened, I was typing away. I had a deadline. I went to hit print, and all of a sudden, the print button was behind an oxidative stress wall. And there was nothing. There was just black. And I understood why the doctors said I would be brain dead, because it would have been just so easy to just sit at that wall. You couldn't get through it. But I'm not the kind of person that can just sit. And so I learned after a while to step back away from the wall. If I can't get through it, look around it, find ways. What I learned how to do was reprogram the neurological pathways of my brain to bypass the injuries by thinking new thoughts. Instead of taking up basket weaving, which really is not my style, I took up holistic healing modalities. Got a base certification in a dozen of them, starting with specialized kinesiology, because I heard a kinesiologist say that our body has the answer to absolutely everything that we could ever ask. And kinesiology enables us to access the answers, gives you yes, no questions. And I thought, well, the doctors don't know what's wrong with me, but my body does. So I became a specialized kinesiologist. And then that's when I learned how to treat my brain like the massively sophisticated bioorganic supercomputer that it is. When you treat your brain like a computer, you get a lot more mileage out of it. After the bus incident, when I basically realized I can't be in the body that had all of these dreams and hopes. I could no longer, was no longer the person that I couldn't work, because I had a very stressful job, and every time I was stressed, I would black out. So we moved from our beautiful home in Sydney to a tiny little outskirts of a place called Bemboka, the town of 300 people, and we took over a handmade paper mill. And there I killed the person that I was inside, and I built a whole new one. And it was such an extraordinary initiation and thing to do. You know, I started off by, well, if I'm going to create a whole new me, I might as well create somebody I really like, you know. And there was a few things in the old personality that I wasn't a big fan of, like the truth had become somewhat slippery, and I didn't like that about myself. And so I wrote down, I wrote down on a piece of paper all of the things that I didn't like, and the exact opposite, and like lies. Okay, I had heard that if somebody does something for 30 days, it becomes a habit. And so I thought, okay, I am going to replace the things I don't like about myself with the things that I choose instead. Every single time I told a lie, I would make myself stop and say, cancel clear, what I meant to say was, and then I would tell the truth. And it was hard, but it was the perfect place to do it, because 3 other people in the town nearby. Until I got to the point where I could no longer tell a lie. I was, and like, don't ask me questions you don't want the answers to. And I did this with every single thing that I didn't like about myself until I had created somebody that could live in the body that was learning to function again. Very interesting experience. I learned that nothing's set in concrete. You can die to yourself every day, and it's a really good idea because it means you get to be renewed and to look at your life and how you're looking at it and how you're living it, what you're doing with it. You want to know what I was doing at 30 instead of basket weaving? Well, remember I learned how to treat my brain like a computer. I had co-created an entirely new computer support industry in Australia. I had become the first individual ever to be nominated for an IT&T Excellence Award for Industry Development. I was advising state and federal government. I created thousands of jobs in the new industry that I had built, and all because I learned to think new thoughts. No, I couldn't think forward or remember back, so I had to learn how to think up and look down. And perspective became my superpower. You know, you can do just about anything, get an idea of just about anything with perspective. Train yourself to expand your perspective, and you will see things that nobody else does because everybody else is just looking, you know, can't see the forest for the trees. But when you take a step back and you look up and then view it from here, it's a whole different thing. It was also a bit interesting because, well, I inadvertently turned myself into a shaman doing that. My lineage, I'm from a long line of matriarchal psychics. So, like, you know, basic clairvoyance and stuff, it wasn't a big deal. But with this, I started talking to a lot of dead people. See, death is just the end of that particular form. It's not the end of the being. It's like, you know, going on a long car ride. And okay, well, gosh, that was a fabulous adventure, and I'm tired now. I'm going to get out of the car, go into this lovely place for a minute. Maybe I'll get back in the car and go on another journey. But me, the essence, you don't die. And this, of course, it's the same for everybody. I work with so many people whose loved ones have gone on before them so that they can better guide them. The sad thing is, though, I get so caught up in the grief of not having the physical person there, even when the body was so done, you know, they were just not needing that anymore. They get so caught up in not being able to touch the person, they don't even realize there's a whole way better relationship available to them. Well, maybe not way better, but I mean, there's no phone plans needed. I mean, the person has less judgment when they're dead, you know, because you're able to see, oh, okay, all right, I've got a better idea now. Reuniting people with their loved ones is a favorite thing. Well, they're normally brought to me. People know when they're supposed to see me, and often it's their loved ones going, would you please just go and see Joy so that she can hook us up and can realize we haven't gone anywhere. And then when they do, oh, it's such a beautiful, I worked with a man yesterday, his very autistic, in a wheelchair. He adored her daughter. She was 14, and she was his whole life, and he spent his whole life looking after her, and like, fantastic dad. And then he'd come to me for working on a disease, and she just came right in, and and said, Dad, now it's my turn to look after you. Now it's my turn to guide you as you've guided me. Oh God, it was so beautiful. They have the best relationship now because she can talk now, you know, and she's free now. Now, I don't want you getting any ideas about, oh, lovely, well, I'll go off myself. No, it doesn't work that way. If you're here, it's for a reason. If you're watching this, it's definitely for a reason, because there's a gazillion other things on the internet that you could be watching. And if you're here, it's because your light is needed. You know, there's only one way to banish darkness, and our world is getting darker because these are the end times. We have to have end times in order to have a new beginning. We incarnated on the planet to co-create a new earth. And so it looks a bit messy at the moment. Of course it does. Death is messy, birth is messy. But it's natural. And when you are coming from a place and position of awareness of the light that you are, well, darkness is nothing more but the absence of light. You want to be able to get to the end of your life and go, yes. My last near-death experience, I had each one has been different, but the last one, I had a life review. It was a trip. I hadn't had it with the other ones, which I thought was so interesting. Okay, well, this is going to sound weird because it is, but this is what happened. I literally saw my life playing out on gigantic movie screen and realized, oh my God, I am, you know, this is a dropped off on planet Earth survival show deal. Has anybody ever felt like that? Have you ever felt like that, Tia? Like we're on a survival show program and the universe is like, oh yeah, we're rooting for her and oh, I go here together with you.
Yeah, something like that. Or like the Truman Show. Have you ever seen the Truman Show, the movie? Something like that, yes.
It's not Truman Show. It's a genuine survival, you know, like dropped off on this planet, especially the light workers, you know, come on, let's see, how can you change it up? Because everything's vibration. When you shift your vibration, everything around you shifts. I mean, like you can't change the people around you, but what you can do is change yourself and watch the people around you change or fall away. That's good too. Yeah. So I've never in my whole life been so glad that I've lived a life of integrity. That first near-death experience taught me so much. No, the second one taught me so much. Yeah, so you get to see everything that you've done, everyone that you've affected. Everyone that you've affected. It's amazing. Can I tell you it's something I haven't talked about because it's so recent?
Yes, please.
About death, obviously. Because I finally found out why I have died all of these times. I lost track of the number of times that people have tried to kill me. Because mostly because, well, again, I inadvertently turned myself into a shaman. So here I am, I've created GUI Care and Solutions and Software Sanctuary, and I'm at the top of my game and I'm kicking corporate ass. And I'm having so much fun with the old boys network, watching them heads explode because I'm a woman. And at the top of my game, upstairs management, God, tells me, okay, that's enough. Now you're going to be leaving this and going into, you know, clairvoyance and psychic. And I'm going, are you nuts? I am absolutely not doing that. Do you know what it took for me to build this business? No. I'll do that on the side. So within a year, I went from top of the ladder with all of the things to single mother on welfare until I had absolutely no choice but to follow God's plan for me. And that's when I really dove into esoteria. That's when I got all of the each clair was initiated super intensely, the clairvoyance first, and the clairaudience, and it was, and I was shown the bigger picture of what I was to do. And then I got really comfortable with that and built a whole different kind of business, training healers. It was lovely. Do you ever notice how every time you get comfortable, you get moved to the next level? No, lucky you. So upstairs management came along and said, okay, it's time to sell everything you own and take your daughter out of school and travel the world teaching what you learned. And I said, oh, hell no. That is absolutely not going to happen. If you want me to do that, then you organize the whole thing. I'm not taking one step forward. Have you ever prayed a prayer like that? That night I was given 2 tickets to LA. I was not grateful. I was not pleased. This was 2000. You know, all we knew in Australia and New Zealand about the United States was George Bush and Jerry Springer. My family was horrified at the idea that I would be going to such a place. But I didn't have a choice, because you can't teach what you don't live. And I taught follow your guidance. And, you know, here's the thing. Without access to a lot of executive functioning, I mean, my business has worked because my husband was, you know, I can see everything that needs to be done. Then I would hand it off and he would go and do it. And that's what I did to God. You know, I mean, I would receive what it is that I need to do, but I can't do any of it because the ability to plan wasn't there. I'm better now because I've kept working on my brain. So I would just have to leave all of the details to God. And it gave me such a huge advantage over everybody else, because once I stopped struggling, you know, it used to be I would submit the invoice to upstairs management and say, okay, you take care of this. And God would go, yeah, no problems. But then I'd be going, you know, how are you doing with that? I mean, like, just give it back. And I would snatch it back before, you know, and so it was ridiculous. But I did a lot of that until I had one situation where here I am, all of a sudden, single mother, no resources, everything was gone. I had no choice but to put every single thing in God's hands. And then a phone bill came in. For like $781. Insane amount. I didn't even have $7.80 in the bank at that point. So for the first time in my entire life, I gave it to God, and knowing that there was no possible way that I could figure this out, I had to let it go. I had to let him have it. And I said, if you want me to be able to communicate with people, then you get the bill paid. Now, I just joined the ANZ Bank, and I thought, well, and then I lost my card. So I went down to the bank and I said, can I have a new card, please? I've lost my old one. And they said, certainly, which account? I said, I've only got one. He said, no, you've got two. I said, no, how much money is in the other one? Guess. It was $785. So I got $4 off. 15 years before, my husband and I had opened an account there. I'd completely forgotten about it, of course. They'd done the wrong thing by us. So we just pulled all of our money, left $100 or something in there to keep the account open. And in that time, the interest had accumulated to the point where it was exactly the amount that I had to pay my bill, exactly with the $4. So that's when I realized, okay, this is how it works. All right. I'm a master in the moment, because of living in the moment, because not much outside of the moment exists for me, which means that's why I'm always happy. I've learned that you can survive anything as long as you live in the moment. So off I went to the United States, and I began to travel around the Americas, interacting with other shamans and doing earth healing and like all shamans, we all have the same vision, the condor and the eagle sharing the same sky, the old ways and the new, creating a new world, a new earth. And it didn't go down too well because I'm a big red-headed white woman in a sea of mostly very small, dark, extremely macho Latino shamans. And so there was a lot of, oh, really, you think you're a shaman, do you? Well, let's see, I cope with this death curse and this and that and this and that. So that's how I grew enormously strong. But sooner or later, they see your heart, and it can't be denied that this is what you are. In November of last year, as I said, I'm always learning more modalities, always getting stronger and clearer and more personally powerful with each one. Each one I learned how to, like, my whole mission after the accident was to clear stress in 3 minutes or less, because it was that or die. That was how long I had before I would black out. So I started on a tool gathering to clear stress in 3 minutes or less. And then it was like to live more joyfully and less stressfully in 3 minutes or less. That became my thing. Till I gathered this huge tool shed of tools that do that. Every tool in there is rad, replicable, applicable, demonstrable. You can repeatedly apply it to demonstrate that you can make yourself feel better, clearer in 3 minutes or less. It's a wonderful hobby. I highly recommend it. And it saved me on many occasions. When I discovered biological decoding, I thought, that looks interesting. I shall do that next. I did not expect it to completely and absolutely rock my world. It solved every mystery of my life. And that's saying something. I finally got to understand why I have always lived with death. You know, I mean, in addition to like having 6 literal near-death experiences, I've just walked on with him for so long. And in biological decoding, it talks about the first parts of life, like the 27 months, the 9 months before you're born, what your mother or your parents' conflicts are and how they're feeling and what their emotions are and all that kind of thing. The 9 months in the womb, obviously, where you're experiencing everything that your mother is experiencing and aware of everything that's going on. I know. And the 9 months after. These are the months that form the purpose of the person project. The conflicts of the parents are resolved within the child. So the 9 months before my birth, my mother was absolutely consumed with her beloved brother, the most important person in her life, who was 25 and dying of a horrific form of cancer, and begging her to kill him. And of course she wasn't allowed to. So sad. So that entire 9 months for her was all about death and not wanting him to die. And then he died, and I was conceived the night he died. My mother sought comfort in the arms of her beloved. For the next 9 months, she didn't tell anybody she was pregnant. She ran away. She refused to marry her beloved because he was Catholic, and she didn't want to raise me that way. So she ran away, and for 9 months, her only thoughts were, I should be dead. It should have been me. I want to die. The only reason that I'm not dead is because I'm going to have this baby. And then she had me at a Karatani home, a single mother's home. And I was the only white baby born in that home for a while, and they had a really long list of people wanting to adopt a white baby. So I was worth a lot of money to them, but she didn't want to give me up. So when I was born, they took me off her, and they took me away, and they left me to die, locked me in a room, to try and force her to sign the papers that would let me be sold to the highest bidder. Instead, she rang up her mum and dad, said, I just had a baby. They had spent the last 9 months in deep, deep grief over their beloved son. And they drove up the island. A lot of money was changed hands, and I went home with them. And I spent the next 9 months of my life with my little mother, my grandmother, who was my mother, who was absolutely terrified that I was going to die as well. And because I was pretty sickly by this point after being starved and whatnot the first 3 days. So that entire 27 months was the conflicts of wanting to die but not being able to, having to live, became my purpose, is resolving, almost dying but not quite, and rising again and again. I lived a phoenix life. When I dove more deeply into this and realized the truth of it, I was able to decode it, and then it was gone. This only happened like 2 months ago, because once I discovered this, I'm going to become I became a certified biological decoder, because there's stuff in here that I hadn't. I mean, all these modalities that I've studied, and I've done a lot of things with ancestry and stuff, but nothing like this. This allowed me to get in and rewrite my code. And as soon as I realized this is why all of a sudden he was gone. Death was gone. I'm still looking around for him. It's really weird. We've been together so long. I didn't even know until he wasn't there anymore that this huge death grip had been upon me. And then it wasn't. and I stood in the center of my portal sanctuary, and there was no death around me, and I rose straight up. And there I was shown the reason. My apprentice always says, the greater the contraction, the larger the expansion. And my contraction had been so great for decades, nearly I'm 64 in August, and I do not feel the presence of death around me. And the expansion was, and what came in? I was filled with this Christ light, the Christ consciousness. Every cell in me was filled with this light. There's no necrosis in my body. I can heal my jaw now. There's no. Everything is different. Everything is different now. The work that I'm doing, I mean, I just have to be in the same room with people now, and it's, I understand now what's flowing through me now for the world. It makes everything worthwhile.
Do you feel like you were given your death experiences to kind of wake you up to your purpose?
Sort of. Like every time I died, I was returned with new gifts, new perspectives, really skills that I don't know if I would have got any other way. I mean, every yeah, everything, every time. And this was a whole new version of that, because I didn't die. I released death, or the death that had been placed upon me. So now I'm discovering, and it's so funny because all my friends are going, "Oh, I'm getting older, you know, death is approaching." And I'm going, I've been there, done that, and I always was a bit of a backwards person. So yeah, with the presence of death enables us to review our lives, decide how we want to live. And the good news is you don't have to physically die to do that. I have a course called Creating Your Ultimate Self, and in the last day of it, it's a 6-week thing, and nobody knows what happens on the last day. And I bring them all in, and the space is darkened, and I'm cloaked as death. And I'm not speaking, and I hand out a questionnaire. And as they come in, I pair them off. Death has appeared to you now. And but there's a bit of a queue. So if you want the opportunity to maybe experience another month, please fill out the questionnaire. And it's so how did you live the last month? What are you proudest of? All of the things that help you to review your life, so that you can get a feel for, okay, well, if I'm dying today, oh God, how do I feel about that? You know, what is unresolved? What is left? What should I be doing? What was I doing? And then I pair them up, and I have, you know, you tell this person, you tell your partner what you want as your eulogy, and then they're going to do it. And when that's done, if I have access to a coffin, fine. Otherwise, I'll make one. And they literally get in, and everybody gathers around them. Flowers are put on them, and their partner reads the eulogy. Everybody's crying at this point. And I move from their feet to their head and ask them, if you were to receive the gift of another day, another week, maybe another month on this planet, how would you spend it? And then they rise and leave everything that is not the next grandest version of themselves. They leave that in the grave. And it's an incredibly powerful, potent thing. Actually, if you want that questionnaire, email me. Just experiencejoy.com is my website. Email me, I'll send you the questionnaire, because it really is important to review. How are you living? How do you want to be remembered? What do you want as your legacy? What will you take to God as the sum total of everything that you have done on the planet? What is yet to be done? You know, so many people, oh, I'll do it when I retire. Oh, I'll do it when the kids are grown. Oh, I'll do it. Really? How arrogant. You assume you've got all that time. It's just going to keep on going? Not necessarily, my darling. You don't know whether or not you're going to see the end of the day. You might go outside and be run over by a stampeding camel herd. We don't know. So preparing for death isn't morbid. It's exciting, because it gives you an idea of, oh, seriously, I got to the end of this day. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. What did I do? I might have another tomorrow. This is look where we are. Look what we get. We get to have a body. We get to have a body. We get to see and smell and taste and touch and decide what we want and draw it to us with our focus and roll around in it for as long as it delights us. And when we're done, we can choose again. We get to have a body. And we spend so much time of it going, that's not helpful. Your body never yells at you for no reason. Never does. There's always a reason. But like, when instead of going, oh, thank you, body, for drawing my attention to an unresolved issue or a pain, or that's something that needs to happen, we take a pill, which is like putting masking tape on the oil warning light in the car because you don't like the message that it's sending you. It's not long-term helpful. If you're in a body, take a moment to give it a little grateful squeeze. You know, take a moment to thank it. All of those parts of your body that you've been just mean to, stop it. When you learn to treat yourself like a beloved child, when you learn to speak to yourself like a precious child, your whole world will change.
You gave your website. What can the viewers expect to find at your website?
On my web, bit of a mess, everything. I just threw it all on there. There's all kinds of empowerment tools and my very strange life story and joy stories. And I just want my intention and desire before I die is to make sure that everybody has all of the skills that I had to learn in order to survive my insane life. So if you go to my website and pop your name in the thing, I'll send you a 15-minute video that shows you how to relax instantly, keep a clear head no matter what craziness is happening, and clear stress from your body. You must have these basic skills at the very least. They're foundational. Because right now, when stress comes in, most people just swallow it down, work harder, work faster, take a pill, have sex, go to church, whatever. Anything except actually resolving the stress. And so it goes deeper and deeper until it makes us sick. We can't do that anymore. So this is 15 minutes, and you do the tools with me. Don't just watch and go, well, that's interesting. No, you've actually got to do it in order for it to work. It's simple stuff. But my word. And you measure your stress levels on a scale of 1 to 100, because 1 to 10 just doesn't work for us sensitive folk. What's my stress level now? Well, it's like 93. Well, okay, fine. And then you do the 3 tools, and then you measure it again on the other side. And when you find out how well it works, you share those tools, because everybody needs this stuff.
Do you think there's a shift in the world?
Oh my God. Yes, it's enormous. The shift is enormous, especially since the eclipse. I don't know who else is noticing. No, I didn't, I'd heard a lot about the new earth and the old earth and the shifting, but I thought, well, that's interesting. I experiencing it now. We're on a different timeline. Are you feeling that too? We're on a different timeline. The things that were not accessible to us before, they're just in reach now. They're in reach. And I've learned that when we shift to a new timeline, like my path is one of consciously creating the next grandest version of myself. It's conscious evolution. And I really recommend that, because change is coming hard and fast. And when your path is one of conscious evolution, then changes, you're able to roll with things very much more easily, especially remembering that change is just taking what you are and adding choices to it. And we're on a new timeline. And so it's safe to assume that you can't assume anything anymore. Question everything. I can't do that. Really? Maybe you can now. Okay, well, maybe I should try. I don't like that. Are you sure? Maybe you should try it again. Because it's a whole different world. And if you need more help with that, I don't do baby steps. I'm not a person that everybody should see. Well, I'm fairy godmother to TikTok and to the world, shaman to a very select few. But my clients I empower the people who empower other people. And my clients all look like combination locks with almost all of the tumblers turned. And I get to flip over the last ones. Oh, yes. Best job. Best job. Sorry.
If you had one message that you wanted the viewers to take away from our conversation today, what would that be?
If you died today, what would you take to God as the sum total of your experience? Are you happy with that? If you're not, change it up, because there may still be time. No guarantees. Let yourself look at your mortality. It's the greatest gift that you could give yourself. And okay, there is one other thing. All right. If you've had a loved one that's passed and you still feel their presence, there's a good chance they're still there. Because there's, soul contracts, they're not broken. Just because somebody drops the body doesn't mean they've dropped the agreement. There is a chance that they have gone on so that they can better guide you. So just open next time you're feeling, oh, yeah, I feel bored. Just stop with the tears for a minute and tune in and go, hey, are you actually there? And then release the need to control how you experience them. It's the same with your guides. Get in contact with your guides and your guardians. Goodness me, I'd be so in trouble if I did not have that ongoing communication. So expand your awareness to notice more of what is. Decide who you want to be in this next part of your life, because you can. And remember to experience joy.
Joy, this has been lovely. You are lovely and so full of joy. I've enjoyed this so very much.
To myself otherwise.
You're so happy and energetic, and I can really feel you even through Zoom. This has been special. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Truly my privilege, Tia. Thank you so much for bringing this awareness to people. It's important. I appreciate my reflection in you. I love that we're reflecting each other. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mwah.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing if you enjoy near-death experiences and other spiritually transformative stories. It helps the algorithm know that this information is useful and push it out to more people. And that's the goal, to get as many people to know that we are eternal spiritual beings and that we never die. Our bodies might die, but our essence will never die. And I want people to live with less fear. Let's all spread the word. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that little notification bell so you get all the notifications when my videos post. Thank you for all of your support. I'm sending love to you.